All right. Well, welcome everybody. Hello, Melanie. It's so nice
Hello,
to see
hello.
you.
Likewise.
Oh my goodness. I am a fan of yours since like the moment that we met last fall. You just radiate all the good things. And so to have you, share some of your time, which I know has been very sparse this week. You've been a busy lady. It's just a real privilege. So I just want to thank you so much for joining.
Well, Jill, likewise. When we first met, it was a mutual love connection, and I really appreciate you inviting me to your platform. Good to be here.
Anytime, anytime. Well, I would love to just kind of give the audience an opportunity to get to know you a bit, Melanie, because I think your services in the immense skill set that you have and bring to others, it's unique. And yeah, I even had trouble when I was trying to sing your praises online. Like, what does Melanie do? Well, she does all of these things, and I just wonder if you could share how you would characterize what it is that you do.
Yes, so technically, I am a voice futurist. And what that means is all things voice, how the human voice is used, people, processes, places. I help to strategize and coach around harnessing the power of the human voice. And what that can look like is okay, number one, not singing. As a matter of
Ah,
fact,
phew.
I know. As a matter of fact, I tell people, you will pay me not to sing.
That's reassuring. Thank you for making that
Right.
known. Yeah.
So I'm talking about voice speaking communication. And
Mm,
so, what that looks like day to day, it could look like me working with a founder to help them get their pitch deck ready or their pitch presentation ready for a VC investment. It could look like me working with executives, aligning their presence and their voice with the company brand and the stakeholders' interest or values. Sometimes it's really, really fun. And it looks like me working with actors and actresses,
wow.
getting them and their voices ready for the role that they're going after. And it can even look like one of my favorite things is me hosting a wellness retreat centered around voice and inner voice and alignment and vocal presence. And
Mm,
so that's on the human side. Um, Also, and it can look so many other ways, but
yeah.
then a couple years ago, I started getting into voice AI. And what that can look like on any day is me engaging in a conversation or being on a panel about voice AI ethics and the
Yes.
ethical considerations around that. Or it could look like me consulting with companies who are trying to use digital voices. For instance, most well, let me not say that. I have to be very careful because I'm a firecracker.
Love it.
Many companies are just picking voices. They
Yeah.
don't know where they come from. There's no ethical consideration around the
Mm,
sourcing, all the way down to the deployment of that voice, meaning how will it impact your end user? And
mm,
one reason I really got fired up and interested in this is because I realized when Black and Brown voices were being synthesized, it became caricatures of our
mm.
voice versus like real meaningful uses of our voice. And I was like, who's in the room?
Right.
Who okayed that? And so
Mhm.
that's what really got me fired up and excited just about getting into voice AI. And there's so many other applications in the spectrum, but this is kind of where I land today.
Oh, fascinating. And it's one of the reasons why I feel like these kinds of conversations on responsible tech talks are important because I want to sort of model for folks that people, no matter kind of like what your skill set, educational background, interest, like there are paths to affecting responsible change for just about
Yes.
everyone. And I think you really, exemplify that because I never really thought about the, kind of mapping of voice and voice technology until,
Yeah.
getting exposed to your work. So how
So
did you come to be here?
yeah. So, okay, let me start here and then I'll
Yeah,
backtrack. The
awesome.
Jill, I don't know if you're aware, but I work in a lot of ecosystems with immense innovation.
Hmm.
Namely, one of them is the South by Southwest
Yes.
pitch ecosystem. And so a couple years ago, I was at South by Southwest, and all these humanoid robots were coming to the stage, and a lot of applications with a digital voice. And I made it a point to ask these technologists, creators, founders, like, who designed the voice?
Hmm.
100% Jill, not 90, not
Hmm.
70, 100%. The response was, oh, well, we just kind of picked it.
Yeah.
No thought, no
Yep.
strategy, no real design, no real thought about the outcome and the impact. And I thought, these are multi-million dollar companies just saying, let's play Russian roulette, pick a voice, and let's see how it lands. And
Exactly.
even the prototypes and the demos, I was like, it's not landing. It's not landing.
Mm.
And so creating this path has been full of hard work because, like you, who's thinking about it? There are very few of us that think about it, but even fewer from the lens in which I look at it. So, to take you way back in my crazy path, and be patient with me, new braces.
Oh, no, no, no
So,
need to be patient.
I'm
Yeah.
learning how to speak over them still.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, my
lots of
kids are on this journey too, it just so happens. So it's been
I
an
just have
adjustment.
I just
Yeah.
happen to be an older one on the journey,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm having to practice with what I teach about over articulation.
Ah.
I started out in the theater.
Hmm.
I was a stage girl, live theater, and it was in the theater that I learned the impact of human voice on the human psyche.
Hmm.
So, playing with the voice, manipulating it, enrolling, letting different nuances of the voice be heard or quieted or amplified. So, it was there that I
Hmm.
learned human voice on human psyche. But then I lost my love for just performance for performance sake. And I became a drama therapist.
Hmm.
And as a drama therapist, I worked on inpatient psychiatric units, both adult and adolescents. And it was doing that work that I learned the impact of the human psyche
Hmm.
on the voice, on vocal expression, how it amplified it, constrained it, muzzled it, quieted it. So
Oh.
now I'm having this 360 view of just voice and impact. But then, Jill, I hated the system.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
hated the system, but I loved the work. And I left the systems. And oddly enough, it was really about healing. I saw voice as a modality of healing. And I remember telling my dad at the time, because it was a good job, I was like, Dad, I can't take this anymore. It's the system. I'm quitting. And he was like, well, you don't quit a job until you have another job. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, Dad, I can be like homeless if I want to.
That is my decision.
Right. If that's where it goes,
Oh.
I can be homeless if I. And he just kind of was like,
Mm.
oh, this crazy girl. And
Mm.
so I left the units and I literally found myself becoming a medical missionary. I know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it was in that work because I was like, I want people to heal body because our bodies are the vessel of our voice,
Oh.
mind, because our minds and all the experiences and the thoughts and the emotions that we have, it constrains or it propels our voice. And then spirit, because I really believe that we're spiritual beings and that is where our true anchoring is. So I became a medical missionary and I was helping people overcome disease of mind, body, and spirit, Jill.
Hmm.
And I and I know it was only God. I'm a God girl.
Yep, yep.
It was only God. And guess what? I'm not ashamed. It used to be like,
Oh.
I'll keep that part of my story quiet, but it's so relevant to my journey. I was thrust into an ecosystem where people were being sent home from the hospital on hospice,
Mm,
told that, the traditional medical conventional way had nothing else for them.
mm,
And I would get them.
mhm,
And I would use biblical principles and natural remedies. And we would begin a journey together of going from, I have no hope in anything else, to I have defied what conventional medicine said that I could not. So I have seen fourth stage cancers, sarcoidosis, scleroderma, lupus reversed.
no kidding.
And
Wow.
also things that plague our nation, like hypertension and diabetes.
Mm,
Those are what I started to call the easy things to reverse.
mhm,
Reversed, but check it out. Oh, infertility was another big one
hmm,
for women. But check it out, Jill. In that journey, once again, my ear was so tuned to voice and how we showed up in the world. I worked with only women, and it became a pattern in working with the women that much of their disorder and disease was connected to their internal voice
hmm,
and the disconnect in how they showed up in the world.
hmm.
And I had this
Interesting.
one client that just sent me over the edge.
Yeah?
It was a woman. She was in her early 30s, about to get married, fertility issues, and she worked in a male dominated field. And as I was working with her and detoxing, I would get these, and I don't want to go too woo woo here because we're talking responsible tech, right?
Yeah,
But we can even
yeah,
talk
yeah,
about the
yeah.
disconnection
Mm,
between tech and soul and how our
mm,
work has been bridging that. But
mhm,
anyway, I would get these downloads of like really pointed things to ask her and to kind of cover with her so that we can kind of expedite her healing process. Long story short,
mhm,
she was ultra stressed in her workforce. The men would not listen to her. She couldn't get cooperation. And remember, she's in leadership
mm,
and she hadn't seen her cycle in years.
hmm, hmm,
So as we're processing through and working through detoxing the body, detoxing the mind, giving her new coping mechanisms and tools, finally, on about day 6, I was like, your voice is part
mm.
of the problem. Can you give me permission to just be really plain with you and to give you some tools to recalibrate your voice? And her voice, Jill, was very high pitched. I
Hmm.
I can't even mimic it because my voice is too low pitched, but
Hmm.
her voice was very high pitched and she sang when she spoke, and it was very what men would perceive collectively as infantile, lacking authority,
Hmm.
and if I could just be really plain and honest,
Mhm.
ditzy,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I taught her how to lower her pitch resonance,
Hmm.
change her prosody by cutting her flow short to kind of sound more drum like instead of flowing all over the
Hmm.
place when she spoke, and how to use action, power, words when she spoke to engage her crew. So taught her that. By day 8, her cycle came back. We were in
Wow.
a session and she was just like, she screamed. Her cycle
Hmm.
came back, and in 3 weeks, implementing the voice techniques that I gave her, she was experiencing more cooperation, buy-in, and reduced stress
Wow.
in her
Wow.
workplace.
Wow.
And it was there. After me sharing that story with my best friend, she was like, Melanie, I know that you can do this for
Yes.
more people. Why aren't you sharing your talents with more people? And I laughed it off.
Mhm. Hmm.
But then eventually that it started boiling in my stomach. Hence, I launched my agency. And 8 years later, we're here, we've expanded, and it's been amazing.
Well, it is amazing and watching, and I thank you for sharing so much of your journey because I didn't know all of that background, but
Yeah.
to just reflect on where you are right now and what I perceive, I mean, someone who is so centered in that sense of mission and
Yes.
faith and just confidence. It's so inspiring for me, and to see you parlaying this into, helping women leaders achieve,
Yes.
helping tech be more aligned with our
Yes.
ethical centers. It is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. But I'm going to admit something to you, Melanie.
Yes.
I am probably, no, this is absolutely true. I don't think about my voice in, maybe at all day to day. I think about communicating,
Yes.
and being clear. And it's very much an intellectual, I think, exercise for me. There are times when I have to calm nerves in order to, get through a presentation, but sort of beyond that, I think I'm a little oblivious to the connection between kind of the physical and kind of what you're calling maybe the inner voice, and
Yes.
how that translates externally and why that's important. So you've talked about that by example, but like,
Yes.
what do people mistake or ignore about the voice that they should really pay attention to?
You are not alone, Jill. So many people think about communication. They know it's good to communicate, but they tend to think in structure,
Yes.
meaning word choice, or even how I stand or take up space in an environment.
Yes. Yes.
But they disconnect the way we sound from the content and the structure. But research proves that it should be flipped around. Research
Mm,
shows, and let me explain a little bit.
yeah.
Research says it's not the content or the data that people remember, it is how they feel
Hmm.
when they hear us speak.
Wow.
And the way we sound is the direct link to how we make people feel. So it is our pitch, our prosody,
Mhm.
our pronunciation, even our flow, our volume that precedes our precision in messaging. And
Hmm.
so I was just at Chief last night, which is executive membership for women. I did a whole workshop on being vocal AF, or
Yeah.
being vocal in your assertive feminine. And
Mhm.
once again, a room full of women did not connect the way they sound with the outcomes that they're getting when they communicate.
Hmm.
So you can enter a room with the best data, the most compelling argument. But if you deliver it in a way that triggers people's defenses or trigger people's mistrust,
Hmm.
you will get nowhere. But if you
Interesting.
take that same content and learn how to be warm and authoritative and get that buy in, it is a completely different outcome. So I always say, we're going to calibrate your voice to get the outcomes that you desire because
Mm.
we're always making impact,
Mhm.
always.
Hmm. Yeah.
But is it the impact that we desire? So when we think about that, even human to human, then let's take it another level, human to machine, but let's up the ante a little bit more to what we're experiencing now, machine to human.
Hmm. Yeah. Ooh.
What does that sound like? And now my question is, who is training whom?
Mm.
Or what is training whom? Who is training what?
Wow.
Because just in the last 8 months, I've noticed a major shift in the prosody, in the communication, and in the sound of people who interact with digital voices quite a bit.
Ooh, can you say, yeah, what are the changes that you've seen? I definitely, there's so much to unearth in the ethical and the technical side of things. So this is a good
Yes,
segue. Like, maybe we should just
yes.
dive right into it. What are you seeing?
Namely, in the younger, let's start with young children.
Mhm.
I'm a mother of six. I homeschool. I have children from 7 to 25.
Wow.
Okay. So I got my pulse on the people.
Yeah, you do.
But even in school systems and social systems, I've noticed that children, let's say from starting to speak around 2 to about 10, they are being trained by what they hear in Alexa, in the
Hmm.
video games, in just different voice interfaces that they are interacting with. And so their cadences and voices are becoming more machine like,
Oh.
more, hi, mom, welcome. Oh, no, so I'm listening to the
Mm.
prosody, and it is literally being trained on what they hear and interact with. Even in the video games where the voices are almost human like, but not quite. And even the body language from Roblox to Sims, they're playing around with this movement that is really, really interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a question on that?
Yeah, well, I did. As I'm wondering, what are the impacts of that? So you're recognizing that this is happening.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know about your commentary on good, bad, and different, what you're concerned about, excited about, like what does it
I
mean?
I think we need to be concerned. I
Mhm.
think we need to be concerned because the implications are, first of all, the children are being trained and they don't know they're
Mm.
being trained. And there is a principle: by beholding, we become changed. Look at
Mm.
all the tertiary evidence that even we have when it comes to research on watching movies and how our brain can't discern the difference between real and what we're seeing in the movies, whether it's violence or over sexualization or even the healthy things. So here we
Mhm.
have a whole demographic of people being trained not knowingly, um, and we're being trained in sound,
Hmm.
and sound bypasses the frontal lobe and just hits
Mm.
the feeling, the limbic system, and we just begin to do, just like music with a crazy lyrics, we're just vibing out to it, not knowing that there's a training happening in our brains. The same
Hmm.
thing is happening with digital voice, synthetic voice, not even based on the content, but just the prosody. And what that means, it 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 really gives rise to my studies, very surface albeit, in sociolinguistics,
Hmm.
meaning what happens to the sound of your culture,
Hmm.
what happens to the sound of where you live, what happens to the communication styles that have been proven to be effective
Hmm.
for the
Hmm.
ecosystems that you operate in. Like, so my mind always teeter totters between, yes, there's this expansion of what is possible for voices, but there's also a type of erasure that's
Hmm.
happening.
Hmm.
And I think that we need to be aware of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there an analogy? This is just bringing to mind news broadcasts, and I feel like there's a familiar theme there as well around
Yes,
kind of a standard way of speaking, where
yes.
regionalisms maybe are, you know,
You're right. Well, that's even in news rooms that has changed over, I would
hmm,
say, the last almost decade. I noticed it shifting.
hmm.
All newsrooms across America use the Midwest accent.
Ah, I've
And
heard
because
this. Being from the Midwest, I'm like, is there such a
exactly,
one thing? But
it
yeah.
is. And because I'm from the Midwest as well, I'm from Chicago, Illinois,
Mhm,
I always thought this is normal.
mhm,
This is just
mhm,
normal because I grew up hearing the Midwest accent. It wasn't until I started going away and traveling, and the news anchors started to be okay sharing their regional accents just a little bit more. I would be like, ooh, she has a Southern accent, or ooh, that's an East Coast accent, or oh, that's a West Coast accent.
mm,
But it started to become more normalized. And
mm,
I think that that is a good thing because there's a fact: people identify, build rapport with, trust, know, and do business with people that they feel familiar with
mm,
and that they like.
mhm, mhm.
But also, there's a book called Voice. I was seeing if it was right in my reach, but it's not. Written by John Colapinto, who is a New York Times best-selling author, and he used to work for New York Times. And in that book, he says that voice is the last acceptable kind of ecosystem of bias that goes unchecked.
Mm. Oh gosh. Yeah, same word. This reminds me of your conversations with the tech folks who We just picked a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am very curious about the ethical dynamics of
Yes.
artificial intelligence and voice. So I'd love to hear you say more about that.
Oh my goodness. Voice ethics. It just literally gets me so excited because we know what I call bedrock of ethics. We need it to be safe. We need it to be secure. We need it to be transparent. Yes, across all systems. We need guardrails, they say, across all systems. But with voice AI, and I'm talking specifically voice AI that is audible, meaning I can grab a snippet of your voice and now I can create a whole digital synthetic voice from it. Yay. Not only can I create deep fakes where
Mhm.
I can mimic your voice, I can also just post it on my LinkedIn a couple of days ago, perhaps on Monday. I can hack your voice authentication
Mm,
security platforms. Not
mm.
only can I do that, I can harness data from your voice that speaks to your health, your
Yeah.
mental status, your fertility. And if I'm a nefarious player, I can do all manner of things with that information. So now, when I think about your voice in AI systems, we need to think even deeper about the ethics and the guardrails that we place
Mhm.
upon the products that will be a result of
Mhm.
your voice. But it
Mhm.
doesn't even start there. Let's go all the way to the beginning of the pipeline and talk about where are we sourcing these voices from?
Mhm. Mhm.
Are we getting them from humans? And if we are getting them from real live voice actors, are we paying them?
Good question.
Do
Mhm.
they even know what their voices will be used for? And are we paying them fairly? There was a lot of commotion in the industry where voice actors were just totally no to voice AI, no
Mhm.
to synthetic voice. And this was maybe, I was sitting in conferences maybe 5 years ago, and they were
Hmm.
just like, no. But
Hmm.
then I saw a shift when they realized voice AI and synthetic voice is not going anywhere. So instead of them just scraping the internet and getting voices, and we have no stake in the game, okay, what about fair use? And so
Mm.
now there
Mm.
are platforms, and I love to talk about Ethovox. It's a
Mm.
platform built by voice actors for voice actors and synthetic voice applications.
Ah.
So that's thinking about sourcing and the ethical
Mm.
guardrails around that,
Mhm.
all the way, like I mentioned earlier, to deployment. So
Mhm.
I like to use this story. There was a toy that had a digital synthetic voice that interacted with children. And the voice, not only was it audible, it had multiple languages.
Hmm.
And one of those languages was Polish.
Hmm.
And it just so happened that a Polish grandmother bought this toy for her grandchild, and it was playing with it. It was speaking in different languages. But when it hit the Polish language, not only did she notice that it was sort of like a caricature of a grandmother's voice, a Polish grandmother's voice, it was also speaking things that were not positive. In essence,
Hmm.
it was telling children they should kind of do drugs.
No kidding. Oh my gosh. Ah. Yeah.
So, not only content, but the actual sound of the voice, who okayed
Who
this?
did? Yeah,
What
exactly.
systems were in place? What guardrails? What checklist? What audit happened that
Mhm.
this tool actually got to the market? Let me
Yeah.
give you another example. I was out at CES and I'm going through all the booths. I'm making sure that I visit all the voice AI type applications or synthetic voice booths. And I get to a product and it's a digital human with a voice. And the digital human happened to be, they chose a woman that was selling tools. Now, the woman was dressed like a Hooters employee
Oh gosh. Uh-huh.
and had a voice that had a lot of upspeak and vocal fry for the application of selling tools. So
Mm,
once again, ethically,
mm,
just catering to the archetype of women as sexual tools to sell products. I
mhm.
asked the founder of the company ethically, who helped design this voice? He said, "Oh, I just picked it." Who
Yeah.
designed the digital hymn? Oh, I just did. No
Mm.
consideration. And as a person, as a woman, if I would have gone into that store and saw that display of this woman selling, I would have been deeply offended
Yeah.
and not chosen to spend my dollars there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, this is a good, point. What do you advise people to do? Because I agree. I think the speed with which we can now generate things, put things out there through generative AI tools, it's very alluring, but it sidesteps these design decisions that still really matter. So
Yes,
as you're advising others on, consider, things like gender bias, racial bias, like how
yes,
do you have them think through that or prompt them to think through that and guide them to a better outcome? Which steps should they take? What do you
exactly.
advise?
First of all, we have to slow down to hurry up.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
And
Sure.
And even that thought, when there's lots of innovation happening or the innovation cycles that are moving at warp speed, nobody wants to hear that.
Hmm.
But there are a lot of forward thinking companies out there that are saying, okay, we want to build ethically. And the mindset is almost, we want to be the innovators that build ethically so we can establish trust so that we become leaders
Yes.
in the ecosystem. Okay. So let's say it's those kind of people, and then the other kind of people that just want to say, okay, we don't want to get hit with fines and things like that when they finally establish the standards
Hmm.
coming out of the EU AI Act or any, act that America finally gets on the books,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so it's a framework that I invite people to look at. And it does cover trust, governance, but it goes a little deeper. Who is responsible on your design team or your product owner or manager? Who is the buck? You know
Yeah.
how it says the buck stops
Yep.
here?
Hmm.
Identify a buck that is completely responsible if something goes haywire with this technology.
Hmm.
But then also, I like to bring in lenses that help the design team look at it from a cultural lens,
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
sociolinguistic lens, a lens that considers deeply the end user and the whole purpose of the product or the voice being used. Then technical things like safety and security. Who owns the data?
Yeah.
How are you training the user to know what they should do, how their data is being used, if they can get their data erased in everyday language? Do your
Hmm.
users have the opportunity to opt in versus opting out?
Hmm.
And then, Jill, we are emerging into ambient technology.
Yes, this is where I'll just say it, lots of concerns because to your point, there's a lot of metadata associated with our voices. And I am every day kind of blown away with what one can conclude about one's health, et cetera, just based
Mental
on
state.
voice. Yeah.
So now we're in this age of ambient
Mm,
AI and data, not to mention agentic AI,
yeah.
meaning autonomous agents making decisions and working on our behalf. So let's just give a little example. Let's say that there's some ambient AI that's connected to agentic AI, and I'm speaking and it picks up that I'm a little depressed. And this agentic AI has the right to make decisions.
Mm,
What kind of decisions are being made? Do I want people to know that I'm feeling depressed? Who owns this data? Where is this data going? What kind of decisions are being made? Are there humans in the loop? If so, what are the humans overseeing? At what percentage of what rate? It's so many questions.
yes. Hmm.
And I'm of the opinion I know that this technology is coming and it will be used. So we can't like act like it's not going to be used. So we need to be laser focused on saying, okay, let's build ethically.
Yes.
Let's build responsibly. And I see it as my role in ethical AI and in voice AI to sound the trumpet, to
Mm-hmm.
talk about what could go wrong, but also what could go right if we choose to build ethically. Because I'm all for innovation,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I'm all for responsible AI on both the builder side and the user's side.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We
Awesome.
have responsibility too. We can't just say, oh, whatever the builders say and whatever the technologists say and be passive users. We need to take, as users, our sense of education, autonomy, and agency and say yes to certain technology and no to others. But it all
I
takes
know.
education.
It does, and I think your point about you can say no to some of these things, and
Yeah,
when you were talking about voice in particular, deep fakes, that I remember vividly working with the development team. For them, that was the ultimate, like, violation of, like, we are not even going to go there with using people's I mean, we're that's just off limits to us,
yes.
and that's a choice that can be made, but to your point, if
Mhm.
we are not slowing down to speed up, we are not making those choices intentionally, and that's just ripe for all kinds of harm. And it is scary with the pace of things, but I am hearing you say there are organizations out there who are really
There
taking this
are.
seriously, and that gives me a lot of hope.
There are, for instance, Open Voice Trust Mark Initiative.
Hmm.
They, all things conversational AI, they go hard in the ethics around that. And I'm part of the committee there. And conversational AI, it can be written, it can be audible, but I'm always saying, what about the audible voice?
Hmm.
Because that's another layer of security and ethics that needs to be really considered. Mentioned Ethovox. There are platforms that are coming up saying, hey, let's source voices and deploy digital voices ethically. What everybody is considered.
Hmm.
There are a lot of digital platforms coming up. I won't name any names,
Hmm.
geared toward people to give their voices, like voice acting,
Hmm.
to be used in ways that are, who knows what happens, but they're
Hmm.
like, we'll pay you $1,500 to use your voice. And even my son was like, Mom, I need some cash.
Yeah,
Maybe I should,
really.
maybe
Sounds good.
exactly, sounds good. But then I had to educate. Do you know how long will they use your voice? And what
Mhm.
applications will they use your voice? Will they delete your voice after they use it? Will you get paid again and again? Or is this a one-time wham bam, thank you, ma'am? Like
Mhm.
there needs to be so much education.
Yeah,
So much.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I'm going to come a little bit full circle and then we'll
Yeah.
segue into, some questions. But one of the things as I was preparing for this talk and thinking about voice is kind of what you were saying at the beginning about empowering people with the alignment of their inner and outer voices, if I can
Yes.
summarize it that way. And thinking about responsible tech, I feel like a
Yes.
lot of folks find themselves in rooms where their voice, as one who might be a part of a marginalized group, where it's difficult, but all the more important to speak up because these are technologies that are really going to have a
Yes.
potentially negative effect on them in particular. That's
Yes.
a difficult thing to do. I will just say I've been
Yes.
in rooms with, I'm the only woman, a bunch of, technical folks that I'm like, well, did we think about the people, and
Yes.
that voice being aligned, I agree is huge. What advice can you give people who are in those spaces, in those rooms, and who want to nudge in a more thoughtful direction
Yes.
to kind of get themselves centered to be able to do that work?
This is the question that just fills me with joy because it's actually the question that we should be talking about more. People make tech. And so if people are disembodied from their voice, or
Mhm.
if their voices have been muzzled or silenced, how can we then really make deep, meaningful contributions to tech? So, what I encourage individuals to do is to, first of all, tap in,
Mhm.
tap in. First of all, when is the last time somebody asked you, what does your voice sound like in power?
Never. Nope.
Never, right? Never, never,
What does
right?
that mean? Yeah.
What does that even mean? But my first thing is to tap in and ask yourself, and this is the kind of work I do with corporations, one on one. Go back to the foundation of your voice. And it usually happened in childhood, either in your home or at school, or even a little later when you had that like first romantic relationship. But ask yourself, when is the first time you experienced like a negative happening where you felt like you had to be quiet
Mm,
or not speak up or not share your truth? Because it was at that point that subconsciously you made a decision to not show up in power,
hmm.
to not show up thinking and sharing what you really think and feel. That's the point you became disconnected and you started building on top of that, and it's all been limited. So
Hmm.
that's number one.
Hmm.
Number two, I advise people to connect back to emotion.
Ah,
Jill,
interesting.
Jill, through corporate spaces, through trauma, through disappointment, through not wanting to feel silly and really fearing to be seen, even though we deeply desire to be seen, we have muted the human expression of emotion. So much so that most people are only familiar with anger, happiness, joy, sadness, and now anxiety,
Mm, wow. Mm,
right?
yeah.
So that's the only thing that we're expressing. But I want you to think about it. Let's say you are a technologist and you have built something amazing and it's responsible, and you need stakeholders to adopt it, to buy in, to invest in it, and you need users to get excited about it. If you can't set an emotional intention for you to vocally express how you want the stakeholders and the users to feel, and you just talk about your product like this and say it's really exciting and it's going to be the next wave of innovation to change everything, you lose.
Mm,
So
yeah.
we have brilliance
Hmm.
that goes unheard, genius that will never go anywhere because we cannot command the sounds of our voices.
Not only that, as a woman, like to be emotional in your presentation, I feel like that has been a no-no for
This
quite
is the
some
very
time,
talk I
right?
had last night.
Yeah.
It is a skill.
Mm,
Vocal expression or communication, they say it's a soft skill. Nay, my friend, these are power skills.
mm,
And it is a skill to learn how to express emotion and still be authoritative and warm. Because authority without warmth is cold. And for a woman, especially, you get categorized as a capital B, you know that
mm.
word,
I do.
right?
Mhm.
But then to be emotional without any groundedness and anchoring, now you're ditzy. And no
Mm,
one's going to listen to that or take you seriously. So I teach all of my women clients, whether they're executive founders, actors, actresses. I get a lot of mothers actually that sign up
mm,
in the accelerator. But I teach all of the women how to wield their voice and play in the expansiveness of our vocal repertoire so that we can go from just completely warm and friendly and lover type all the way to authoritative, warm. I'm in the boardroom, I'm in executive spaces, I'm in technical spaces, and I need to be heard. And
mm.
what are the different nuances you can use to balance that out in any given situation?
Wow.
Takes a lot of
Yeah.
intelligence, a lot of emotional awareness, and emotional discipline to communicate from that space.
Yeah, I believe that. And I'm so
Mhm.
glad that you have now kind of broadened mine and I'm sure a lot of other people's awareness that we even have this tool because honestly, it's the
Yes.
thing that's just like way far in the back of my mind to the point where I ignore it. Like I
Yeah,
didn't even know it was a thing I could leverage.
so yeah, we as individuals, male and female, we can leverage that tool to mitigate some of
Mm,
that collective vocal bias. But I
mm,
also go into companies and talk to their hiring teams and their executives about vocal bias because it
Hmm.
is limiting innovation.
Hmm.
Because if these teams don't understand that we have to override our vocal bias to source talent and be open to people who don't sound like us or begin to
Ah.
speak and we can't really hear them because our vocal bias is shutting down our frontal lobe and all we hear is ditzy or all we hear is southern drawl or all we hear is hard edged,
Hmm.
then we limit the diversity of thought, which limits the innovation and the voices that contribute to any product or service being built.
Hmm. Yeah, I love how you're addressing both sides of the equation because there's one way you could look at adapting one's voice to the context and what it is you're trying to achieve as sort of accommodating. And to an extent, I
Mhm.
suppose it is, but you're also talking about the flip side of it for those folks who
For
are
systems
for systems.
and
Yeah.
processes, yes.
Awesome. Well, this has been so illuminating. I'm going to see what questions we have. We did have one person say, thrilled to see Melanie in real time, which
Oh
I'm
my goodness.
sure that I don't know who it was, but I'm sure that's a shared sentiment.
Yes,
Um, let's see, Nitin Uchil, and I apologize if I am mispronouncing your name,
yes.
but he wrote, how can we do a multimodal synthesis of voice, behavior, text, etc., and have it aggregated to enable ethical and responsible AI? Woof, big
This
question.
question,
Yeah.
actually, I've
Is it?
been getting that question a lot
Huh.
in the last 2 weeks. We
Ah.
just participated in Tech Chicago Week, and it was a lot of questions around like the multimodal experience, but to be done ethically. And the real answer that I have right now is that all technologists, whether the mode is voice, whether there's sentiment analysis happening from facial expressions and body language, whether it's analyzing speech to text, all of these different modes together, all of the technologists and builders, we need creatives in the room, we need linguists in the room, we need lay people, everyday, regular, schmegular users in the room. And we need to have all the ethical guidelines and checkpoints and to have vortexes of ecosystems that intersect like Venn diagrams to cross check. Is this ethical? How is this impacting that? For instance, if you're trying to do
Hmm.
sentiment analysis, I can be looking like this. And in one population of people, this looks like anger. But
Hmm.
in another population of people, it could be deep interest.
Oh,
So
interesting.
now, how are we building algorithms that allow for deep interest and anger? And what is the variation between all of that? And
Hmm.
that's just one singular touch point. Now, what happens when I have that facial expression and then this intonation? And this intonation sounds different and means different thing in different ecosystems. Now I have to build an algorithm that allows for that crosses over with now the sentiment analysis.
Hmm.
It is
Hmm.
deep work.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is daunting work, but I believe as we continue to stop working in silos and have these like mini vortexes that come and anchor in together, we will get closer and closer to building multimodal systems with impact that are built responsibly and ethically. And I think we need to start from particular use cases.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
definitely found that to be the unlock because you can kind of riff forever on potential
Yeah.
ethical impacts, but when you ground it in real people, real meaning,
Yes.
it is productive. And I think people maybe underestimate that ethics isn't just an endless circular conversation. It's like there are
Exactly.
actual moves forward that you can find together if you break
Yes.
down those silos and kind of open your
Yes.
perspective. Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's see. I don't see any other questions, but you
Okay.
did, as we close out, I did want to give a little bit of like a kudos to you for your work at Tech Chicago. I wondered if you could
Thank
say a
you.
little bit more about what you made possible at that conference,
Okay.
because I was like
Oh
cheering
my
you on
goodness.
when I read about it.
Thank you. So at Tech Chicago, or even in the Chicago ecosystem, I work with a tremendous amount of founders. And remember, I talked about how genius is happening, but if you can't vocalize it, it just falls flat. And so in at Tech Chicago on at the Capital Summit specifically, there were many, many venture capitalists looking for that innovation in tech, a lot in AI, and there were many founders building amazing things. And so I had a room full of founders and VCs just talking about how founders can show up in their voice, in their presence, and in their pitches to unlock those VC dollars.
Mhm,
Because
mhm,
it is in the investment that allows them to continue to build, to get the technology to the people. And so we know there's a stereotype around deep technologists, deep science, deep med, really being great at building, but not really knowing how to inhabit and embody their genius in a way that gets that buy in, that gets
mm,
the VCs excited as well as the end user excitement. So
mhm,
that session was very practical and hands on how to literally calibrate your presence, calibrate your prosody, your pitch, your passion, your excitement. I gave them practical tools that they could begin to practice right away in the conference to unlock the VC's mindset and dollars so that they can get investment.
Wow, it's awesome. And you're just
Yeah,
empowering so many people to take their responsible,
yeah.
that carefully thought through ideas and bring them to fruition because we need more people like that.
We do.
It's intimidating, but we can do it. And you're helping people to make that connection. So I
Yes,
just love it. Thank you so much for all the work and advocacy that you're doing in this space.
yes.
I have learned a ton today. Folks, if you're at all interested, Melanie, can you share where people can connect with you and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, you're all over the place, so that might be challenging, but
No, right now, because fun fact, Vocal Culture Garden is in a rebrand and there's
Hmm.
going to be a
Oh,
name change coming in the next 2 months. So the best place to find me right now is on LinkedIn
got
at
it.
Mellini Monique. And Melanie, Mellini, Monique. So LinkedIn is the place where you can find me. I post every place that I'm going to be and all the things that are happening. And you'll be able to take the journey with me to the new name and all the
Yeah.
new product and service offerings that I'll be giving in voice. Because if you remember nothing else from today, remember voice is the original human technology, and we should use it as such.
Awesome. Couldn't
Yes.
end it any better than that, so we'll leave
Yeah.
it there. Melanie, thank you so much for your
Thank
time. Thanks
you.
to everyone for your questions and for joining in. This was a real
Yeah.
treat. Sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yes.